No, I'm going to show this all using the web license. I'm going to note a couple features on the installed version that I have this particular preference to, but I'm not going to go long into the installed version. If you are wondering, on the Mac and on the Windows version, every tool I'm showing you is available on those platforms as well. First thing I would demonstrate is the highlighters. Here's the traditional view of the highlighters. They're right here. You can see now the pointer is what I'm using here. But if I want to go to a highlighter, I can go right here. I can choose a color. And then this is kind of what I call a traditional go over what's being highlighted. Oops, I got to choose it. Go over what's being highlighted. And then if I want to change a color, I got to go all the way back, choose, change a color, and then maybe put some supporting details in there, which I didn't change the color. And if I want to erase, I hit erase highlights, and then I have to go over it. A fairly new feature is the interactive mode, where if I go choose interactive, I now can just, as I'm reading, I highlight, and then it asks me, what color would you like this to be yellow? More highlighting. There we go. And then I'll make this green. And what's nice about this, if I no longer want this highlighted, there's a cross-out button. So instead of having to go and choose the eraser, I just say, that's not what I want anymore. So I'm going to go through and just highlight a couple pieces of material. So, and this is where most people, their purpose for using the highlighters is going to be to highlight material they typically would if they had a textbook. So I'm going to choose two different colors. Now, if I go back to the highlighters, you can see this export highlights. Column notes, I'm going to click that, and I'm going to hit OK for now. And it will pull my main ideas and my supporting details into these column notes. Now, this is text in here, so I can click in the other and I can write more notes. From here, if I want this floating while I'm reading, I can also highlight material. And instead of highlight, I can grab it and toss it into the column notes as well. If your campus is advocating UDL, Kurzweil should be part of the discussion in terms of its multisensory approach, different views during the learning process. Now, here's an area that is very important. I need to save this column notes. So I'm going to save as, because I haven't saved it before. This is not intuitive for a student who is used to things just saving to their Kurzweil document. My highlights are all saved. Maybe they came in from high school using Google Docs where there wasn't a lot of save as going on. So here I'm going to go to my private folder. I chose, that was a biology text. I'm going to name it extracted notes, and I'm going to save. I'll just name that one. Save. My column notes are saved. So just where that might be useful is if a student has been reading, they stopped reading, they created some column notes, now they're going on with their reading the next day or whenever. If they choose to add some more notes, and now they kind of get the hang of extracting those notes, I'm going to open column notes, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to open an existing file, the one that I've created for the whole chapter, which is in my private folder under biology, and it's called my extracted notes. And then Kurzweil will have pulled those in and will have included the older notes and the notes that were added so that you can create one ongoing file. I'm overemphasizing this piece of it because of needing to teach the student the flow of this. Kurzweil is an excellent support for the reading, for the note-taking, and then also for the writing aspect of it. And this is the only writing tie-in that I'll show, I think is pretty cool. And I saw a government official who uses Kurzweil exactly this way at the Department of Transportation to write their notes that they have to take. They'll do their highlighting, then they have to write a summary report. They'll pull it in the column notes, and then they'll extract the notes to an outline. I have to leave the page, and now I'll be in the writing path. I actually never even really contemplated this, a direct purpose they used. And in the writing path, Here's my outline of my notes. I can split the screen and I can go from here. Now I can start drafting my notes. Now I am going to go back to my chapter that I was reading. All my notes will be saved, of course. One other option you might want to show people is that instead of column notes, I can go save this as a study guide just to show the difference. Now I'm taking these highlighted notes and it's creating a text document that I can write more notes. I can erase. If I wanted to erase all of these highlights, I can do that as well. I can get those out of there. If I choose the eraser, I can go in and erase the highlights. And I'm hitting escape. You can hit escape to go back to your highlight mode is off. It's just a different way to do it. And now if I want to save this, I can save the document. You can see it's named at the top. I can save the document as, and it will bring it back to my universal library, or I can save to Google Docs, or I can save to OneDrive. So I'm emphasizing this because there's some file management your students would have to be comfortable with as well to use this. I can also print this out and have it as a hard copy study guide as well. I am going to go back to my chapter 1, leave that page. Notice I didn't save that one. So just some additional notes. I'm going to take a moment and erase all of these highlights for now. And I hit escape and you can see I'm back to my pointer, showing the notes as well. So it's just nice to be aware. Once you get a document all full of highlights, you might want to show them. There's other ways to capture your thoughts as you're reading a document. One would be a voice note. I just click the voice note and I want to put an added note here. I'll just pause for a second. This is where I saw this at Chico State University, where they were doing UDL campus-wide. And the voice note in the law department, the professors just loved that feature of where they could add a note themselves for the students to add their own thoughts about why this is important. And it was, again, I'm trying to push that UDL concept because we provide single sign-on so that this could be useful for everyone and also instructors as well. So if I have a new recording here, it'll ask you, and now I can start recording. I think you get up to like 2 minutes, which is more than enough to add a recording. Then you stop that. And I'm not sure if you can. Oh, I can start recording. I hear it. I don't know. Oh, you could hear it. Good. So I say, okay, that's great. I just saved it. Now I've got a voice note for an additional note. And it's kind of out of the way. It's not an intrusive big note that I'm going to show you right now. A sticky note is just a yellow note. A text note, I just click. I'm going to add that. I'm going to put that somewhere. And then I'm going to type in here. Or if I wanted to, I could do, I'm in Firefox for some antiquated reason from when I started here 10 years ago. But if you're in Chrome, you can then use speech to text for adding notes to any of your documents that you do. So in here, I could type notes, and those will be read aloud. If your page is getting cluttered and your students struggle with all of that clutter, you can go in and hide your notes. They're not there. Now my notes can come back. A nice little hack here for an English language learner. I just learned this because our representative for California had a client say, "Cor, you guys are giving a note-taking webinar. You got to show this feature for English language learners." So I've got a note here, and let's say this was a particularly challenging, maybe it's medical text that's particularly challenging for somebody, and I want to highlight the whole paragraph, and then it's really important, so I want to translate it, and I'll translate just to Spanish because that's what's there. Then I want to take a note. I want to plop it right next to that paragraph, and then I want to copy and paste that translation right into that paragraph. And now I have the translation. And if I just know it's there, I can resize it if I want the whole, put it over that paragraph. And I have that in a language that helps me understand it because maybe it's really complicated and every time I read it, it's just such a struggle. And as an example for how you could maybe get somewhat creative with that, different way to use the highlighters as well in the extraction tool. So if my purpose for reading, I wasn't highlighting main ideas, I was highlighting certain areas that were really challenging for me. This is such a challenge when we're streaming. It really does work quite nicely if you want to try it. But I want to highlight this paragraph. And then if I want to extract to a study guide, I want to make sure that, okay, I'm bringing along, I just clicked advance, I'm bringing along my text notes, and I'm bringing along my yellow highlighter. If I had all sorts of different notes, I could just choose what I want extracted. I hit OK, and then it's going to bring in that text, and it's also going to bring in the translation. So I would know on page 1, here's my translated paragraph, and here's the paragraph that I translated. Just an idea of how somebody creatively used a combination of the tools to really help students get through their text. Yeah, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to add one more tool that is a very powerful tool, just the bookmarks. One way to introduce the bookmarks so students get familiar with it is to, at the beginning of a semester, beginning of a new class, they have reading assignments that are articulated to them usually through a syllabus or somehow. If they just go in their syllabus and they say, okay, my reading assignment for 9/19/23 is pages 1 through 9. And I'm going to add that. When I double click that, you'll say, oh, there's my reading assignment. It jumps right to this page. And then if I go over to page 10, which would be the beginning of the next reading assignment, I can add at the beginning of that page another bookmark that says on 9/25, I am responsible for pages 10 through 19. They understand what the bookmarks are for. Oops, I must have not added that. Let me just add that. 9/25, and it's pages 10 through 19, and I have to hit add. Now I can jump throughout my document pretty quickly using the bookmarks. And that just opens up for, if the students understand that concept, they say, maybe that's where I want to put extra notes for this page is going to be on this quiz or on this test. And then they have bookmarks to jump around in their long textbook or their long chapter quite easily, just a tool to help them navigate their learning. So I just wanted to reintroduce you to some of these tools in the installed version. I'm not going to go over this separately. If I did highlights, and the audio options in the installed allow me to just have the highlights read. So if you have students using the installed, and this would be true for the Mac too, and maybe I have all of this page, different highlights, I can hit play and it will just read my highlights. And I've had people say what they will suggest is to say, okay, look at the heading, read your highlights. Do you understand what the heading is? Just a quick way to go through it. That was a pretty cool learning hack. That's just an example. There might be a few different things in the installed version that would add some value, but nothing that takes away from most people. We have by far the most usage out of our Kurzweil3000.com. Okay, that's what I wanted to demonstrate today. Does anybody have any way that they use notes that they think that people would find valuable?
Hey, Corey, there's a couple of questions. One of them had to do, can you please show how you print out a copy of the study guide?
Oh, it's a great idea. Let's see. I'm going to first extract the study guide. And then if I go to right over here is print page. This is another example too while I'm on this page. If you're using Kurzweil to give a test, you open up a PDF or a Word document, that's your test. You can password protect that under this option right here, view document options, and then you can password for that text. How accurate is the translation? We use Google Translate. And then because I can't give the technical reason, our translation is a little more accurate than Google. And I can't tell you why. That was another one I mentioned, Chico State, who used it for UDL. That is what sold them on Kurzweil, was the accuracy of the translation above Google.
I would add, Corey, to that comment that the best way to test the translation and get a testament of it, get a student or a user that is bilingual or multilingual and see it for yourself. You ask the accuracy about it is really, really good.
Thanks, Sam. Somebody asked the question too, how do you create these little folder systems here? So if I go underneath like my private folder, and then if I want to add a new folder, I just right click and add a new folder. Folder name, and then I create it. And I could do that under the biology too, right? I can add the folder, copy, delete, rename. Maybe it would be to say kind of a Windows operating system type of folder management system. The big differentiator with Kurzweil too is specifically showed how you could grab a whole paragraph. You could grab the whole page and translate the whole page. It's not just one or two words at a time. Thanks. An important note here is if you are using study skills and there is, you just have, as I'm showing this, or maybe we have a remedial class on study skills or just a class on study skills. I wish Kurzweil could do this or had this little tool. Reach out to your rep. The importance of keeping Kurzweil as a long-term solution is that it's not just a text-to-speech tool, that it's a tool that can have a deeper impact on learning. While I got you here too, you may have noticed we're adding a whole new group of voices quality-wise, but recently we added this Tamira and Darius voices, which are African-American voices. So we've had really nice feedback on that. They sound very natural, very good voices, because we're willing to stream those voices and pay a little bit extra. Microsoft has some really solid voices. Across the nation, security concerns with even getting Kurzweil on a campus, we have to go through a whole set of security concerns with PII, students' information, right? All of those streaming voices require that we leave your Kurzweil and go into the cloud, into another server that we cannot verify is secure. And so it'll be very interesting to see how that impacts the ability of certain people that provide text-to-speech, how they can get through security matrices that are getting increasingly hard to third-party vendors on campuses. By us keeping it within Kurzweil, so we get these new voices, they're installed on Kurzweil servers. They're not taking you off to a different server. We were very responsive to, we got to get better sounding voices. We can't say we got the greatest voices. No, Snoop Dogg's talking. All right. Barack Obama is speaking, and they sound really good. So we did look at that. That's not even an issue of cost. It's an issue of we'd have those for a while, and then the security demands would say we either got to get rid of those or anyways. Okay. All right. Well, everyone, thanks for sticking around. And I hope you had a great back to school experience and you're starting to settle in instead of that panic at the beginning. I don't miss that from my years in education. That was always, I still get it though. The panic, if you retired, the panic never leaves. You always get the panic of back to school. Stays with you for the rest of your life. It's not a bad thing.